People who have survived an attempted murder, what is your story? I delivered a pizza to a house just outside of the city. On the way back, I stopped to help a car that pulled over in front of me with their hazard lights on. I pulled up beside them and thought it was weird that nobody rolled down a window or made any kind of contact with me for around 15 seconds. The passenger then jumped out of his side of the car yelling that they needed help as he made his way toward my car. I thought something was weird about this. As I started to pull away, before he could get to my passenger door, he began shooting at me. I ducked my head after the first shot entered through the back window and embedded in my passenger seat headrest. Another shot entered through the rear window, while the other 3 only hit the outside metal parts of my car. He missed altogether with another shot. I remember being sure I was about to die as he fired more shots at me. I was very surprised that it wasn't panicky. It was just like, oh, I guess this is it. Turns out it was a plot to rob me. The pizza was ordered and the guys were stationed down the road to intercept me. They knew who I was and they knew that I would be able to recognize them as I had delivered a few orders to them before. The guy wasn't wearing anything to cover his identity, which leads me to believe that he would have shot and killed me if he would have made it inside my car. By the next morning they had all been arrested. The shooter was found guilty of attempted murder and sentenced to 40 years in prison. He later appealed that sentencing because there was a word wrong in the jury instructions. He won the appeal and ended up being sentenced to 10 years and was released November of 2010 after 5 years. The remaining 5 years were to be served as parole/probation. He was arrested twice for parole/probation violation when he was only a couple months away from total freedom. I laughed. My mom attempted to murder me and my sister when we were younger. She was going through a psychotic episode and pretty suicidal, and I said the wrong thing. That set her off. She chased us down to the basement with a knife. We ran into my room and my sister hid in the closet while I tried to fight my mom off at the door. She was trying to push it open while I was trying to push it closed. It was a back and forth struggle until she put her hand in the door. I think she was trying to engage my non-violence because she thought I wouldn't shut the door on her hand, but I slammed the door over and over again until her fingers broke. Meanwhile, my dad, who was in the house, finally came downstairs to check in what was happening. Mind you, this all happened very fast and my dad has a habit of zoning out when my mom gets in her episodes. He ended up pulling her off of the door and my sister and I ran out of the house and jumped in our van. He drove around the corner and turned off the lights and we all ducked down in our seats to hide and stayed there until my dad saw her drive our other car off. It really wasn't an attempted murder, more like an attempted murder. I have an autistic brother who I was closer to when we were younger. I went upstairs to his room to use his computer because our other brother broke mine. He quietly left and I didn't think anything of it. He returned shortly after, and when he opened the door my grandma stopped him and dragged him down the stairs. Turns out, for a long time my brother had voices telling him to kill me. He didn't want to, but was so tired of hearing the voices, and he was just going to kill me to get the voices to stop. My grandmother had worked with mentally ill patients before, so when he went downstairs to get the pair of scissors she saw the look in his eye and knew what would happen. He was sent to some fancy hospital for the mentally ill kids in Chicago. He hated it there. I forgave him and all that, but we've never been really close after that, obviously. It wasn't me but my uncle. When I was a kid, around a decade ago, my uncle got shot while coming out of a bar with a few friends. His friend got hit once in his shoulder but was fine. My uncle, on the other, got hit 3 times. Once in the colon, lung, and heart. By all rights the shooter had gotten him and drove away. His friends rushed him to the hospital and, with a bullet lodged in his heart and blood entering his lung, he managed to survive. He was in a lot of pain for a long time, but since then he's gotten his life together and is getting married in about a year. Edit. I appreciate all the shot through the heart puns, Mayo. Keep them coming if you have more. I had just bought a full sheet of acid. This was 20 years ago. Sorry FBI. And I went over to where my friend was living with a bunch of roommates to share the wealth. I knew most of the people he lived with, but there was one guy staying there who I hadn't met before. I basically handed out however many doses people were tough enough to take at once, including 3 or 4 hits to the new guy. We came to find out pretty quickly that new guy had never taken LSD before. Okay, no problem. He's at home. He's surrounded by people he knows, except me. He can just chill and have a good time. We wanted to watch a movie, so we landed on the Brady Bunch movie, which is trippy F, BTW. Everything's going good. We all start peeking, and we are laughing and having a good time. And then, on the movie, the little girl Cindy is getting advice from her dad and says, "But I don't want to be a snitch." New guy stands up and roars, "Is that what you think? You think I may fucking snitch?" We all try to calm him down, explain to him that it's a line from the movie. We even rewind the movie so he can watch that part again, but nothing is working. He's tripping too hard to reason with, and he's convinced that we are accusing him of being a snitch. Then he starts pacing back and forth, muttering, "This is the kind of shit that makes motherfuckers kill. This is the kind of shit that makes motherfuckers kill." Over and over. Great. He zeroed in on me, I'm sure because he didn't know me, and he's still pacing back and forth and muttering, but now he's giving me a death glare while he does it. I'm getting pretty uncomfortable, obviously, and I'm also peaking from like 10 hits of acid, so my ability to cope with the situation is pretty low. I stand up because, well, there's a guy I don't know pacing around behind me muttering about killing people, and I don't want my back to this dude. This would be a really intense situation, even if I wasn't tripping balls, but the acid certainly doesn't help. Suddenly he pulls out a huge hunting knife, lunges at me, and tries to stab me. I dodged him, then he made another try, but by that time his friends had jumped up and were holding him back. He's struggling to break free and screaming, "You think I may fucking snitch? I'll fucking kill you." And I took the opportunity to bop right on out the door. I was about half a mile from my house, but it took me about 2 hours to find it because I was tripping so hard and I kept getting lost in my own neighborhood. Addendum. He was, in fact, a snitch, and the whole house got raided a few weeks later. A bunch of the guys who lived there got arrested for drugs, although my friend had moved out by that point, so luckily he wasn't one of them. TLDR. Guy taking acid for the first time tried to stab me with a hunting knife because he thought Cindy from the Brady Bunch was accusing him of being a snitch. It turned out he was, in fact, a snitch.